You're listening to Awards Magnet, a Gold Derby podcast with hosts Debra Birnbaum, Joyce Ng, and me, Christopher Rosen. If you'd like to be part of the show, send us an email at slugfests@goldderby.com. We'll do weekly mailbag episodes and all the stuff you love on Awards Magnet. Now, stay tuned for the show. Welcome back to Awards Magnet. I'm Christopher Rosen, and I'm so pleased we have a very special episode here to share with you guys. A longtime listeners probably have heard us talk about Debra Birnbaum, our Gold Derby editor-in-chief, or Deadline's Pete Hammond, Variety's Clayton Davis, The Hollywood Reporter's Scott Feinberg, and Indiewire's Ann Thompson, some of the greatest Oscar pundits to have ever pundited. Well, we've got them all together here on a very special episode of Awards Magnet, and you can listen to them to debate the top categories, including Best Picture, Best Director, you know, all the good ones, Best Actress, Best Actor. So take a listen and please send us your feedback at slugfest@goldderby.com, and we'll talk to you soon.
Hi, we got the exciting news that the Oscar nominations were announced, so I gathered some of the best brains in the business so we can debate who's going to win Best Actor. So here we have our nominees: Adrien Brody from The Brutalist, Timothée Chalamet from A Complete Unknown, Colman Domingo Sing Sing, Ralph Fiennes from Conclave, and Sebastian Stan from The Apprentice. Scott, you haven't started this yet. Who's your front runner? Who is your spoiler?
Thank you for giving me the hardest one of them all.
I saved it for you.
Yeah, I am really torn here, and I think that obviously we've seen already at the Globes appreciation for Adrien Brody, and well deserved. This is just like he certainly bit off the most of to have to chew of any of these guys. 3.5 hours where he's in basically every moment over years and years of this guy's life. It's amazing. I do wonder, A, does this AI stuff linger a little bit? Does it tip it in a close thing for some people? But B, he has won before, whereas these other four guys are newbies. And I think that, the temptation, first of all, Ralph Fiennes as one of the most revered veterans in the business who hasn't won, I think people are going to be aware of that if they're not already, and that there's a bit of urgency. He's not a kid. Like, how many more great opportunities is he going to have like this? Timothy, though, people love the movie. It's an amazing, interpretation of Bob Dylan. And I right now do think that he's likely to play with potentially Critics' Choice and SAG. Like, these are audiences that are largely American and will be, I think, more as predisposed to appreciate him and the performance as anybody. And then you got the wild card of Colman Domingo, who people, we all know, like, just love the guy. And I would have felt better about him if the movie had gotten a Best Picture nomination. So I don't think I don't put him in the same prospects as the first three. But in short, which is what I know we would prefer, I think Chalamet and I suppose Brody as number 2.
Clayton, what do you think?
I feel like it's a 2-horse race between Timmy and Adrien. That is correct. This kind of like the Austin Butler versus Brendan Fraser year again. I think we're going to end up in a split dynamic again. I think something like Timmy's going to win CCA and SAG, and then we're going to have Brody with Golden Globe and BAFTA, and then we're going to flip a coin on the night.
BAFTA could be Fiennes. BAFTA could be
Fiennes. Fiennes could make a turn at BAFTA or SAG. Like
they
John
love
Conclave.
Conclave.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, just a little bit of a spit fact here. Every time Ralph Fiennes is nominated for nominated for an Oscar, his movie wins Best Picture.
Yeah.
So maybe that's good news for Conclave. But I think if ask me today, I think it's Timmy. I think Timmy's going to break Adrien Brody's record and become the youngest winner of all time by like 150 days.
So they're both 29, right? I still don't get this. It's a matter of months.
Timmy's younger into 29.
Days,
Oh,
yeah.
come on.
I know, it's splitting hairs.
He's a statistician. He loves this
He is
stuff.
the youngest 2-time Best Actor nominee since James Dean.
Yeah.
James Dean had to die to keep that record.
And James Dean didn't win.
All right, Anne, what do you think?
So I believe that it will be Adrian Brody. And the reason for that is that it's a little bit like Lincoln, where Daniel Day-Lewis won because he carried the movie. The movie wouldn't exist without him.
No,
And I
he was
think
so
that
awesome.
this is also true of The Brutalist. Without Adrian Brody, you do not have The Brutalist.
Couldn't you say the same thing about?
Yeah, who was going to play Dylan though? Who else was going to play Dylan?
Chalamet's 29. I'm arguing that he has plenty of opportunities ahead of him.
I hear you.
And that's why it may
He
not
has one
be
next
him.
year playing the ping pong guy.
I would be thrilled if it was Chalamet. I think he did an extraordinary thing with the live singing and the harmonica and the guitar and everything else that he did. It would be remarkable. But even if he were to win and gain momentum from the other guild things, I don't, and CCAs, guild, SAG and CCAs, I still think it's Brody for the Oscars. That's my call.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
and I would just add to that. I think this is something that's always hard to contextualize, but we know it exists out there, but you can never put a finite number on it. There always is this feeling that comes in every season that is that feeling of like, this is the only shot we're going to get to do this, versus like, we have time to do this. And I'm agreeing with you in that sense. I think that was a huge factor of why Michelle Yeoh beat Kate Blanchett. It was like, this is the only time we're ever going to get at Michelle Yeoh. Let's take it now. Also probably what's helping Demi Moore. So I think people look at Timmy like, all right, you're 29. You're like our new Leo at the moment. We'll get you when you do The Revenant in 15 years, right? Like,
but that would then benefit Ray Fiennes.
But does that benefit Ray Fiennes?
Win BAFTA.
All right, I just want to make sure Pete gets his voice in here. Right. Pete,
Okay.
why don't you speak up?
Yes. Well, let me start by saying who I want to win. I know this is dangerous for me because I have interviews set up with some of the others and all of that. But here's the thing. Here's who I really want to see on that stage. And the Oscar goes to Sebastian Stan as Donald Trump.
Right.
I cannot wait for that moment.
It's not going to happen, Pete.
I don't care. This is what I'm saying I want to see on the Oscars. I know the Oscars do not want to see this, and because this will set off a firestorm. But that would be a moment that the Oscars are made for. Okay, that's not going to happen, but it should. But here's the thing. These are 5 great performances, and Scott's right. This is the hardest category to safely predict. I think I need some more evidence along the way of momentum, as I keep talking about, which is so important. Timothée Chalamet, that kind of performance, like Sissy Spacek in Coal Miner's Daughter, where he does his own singing, is undeniable. I think that may be why we don't see Angelina Jolie nominated as Maria Callas. Even though every interview, and she was great, and she did train for 7 months, but they blended her voice, and it really is Maria Callas credited as singing there, but doing the own thing like Sissy Spacek did it. On the other hand, Rami Malek managed to win doing the blended thing, so you never know what the thinking is, but it's a powerful way to win an Oscar, is playing a real person like that. Ray Fiennes, way overdue, lovely guy. He's terrific in that movie. It may not have enough mojo behind it. And that leaves Adrian Brody, who, yes, he's won before, but Anne's right. This is his movie. You know, does the movie exist with its emotional heft at all without him in it? I tend to doubt it. So it's a crapshoot right now. I don't think we can safely say at this moment.
You know what? It all might hinge on tomorrow night. Timothée Chalamet hosting Saturday Night Live and performing.
You're not wrong.
Those are not the Oscar voters who are watching that.
And he's great. He's great when he does Saturday Night Live. So it's fun. He's a great guy, actually. I always say I discovered him in a movie called Miss Stevens that I was showing in my screening series. And he wrote me an email that night and said, "Oh, my name is Timothy." And he spelled it differently. "My name's Timothée Holiday," or something like that. And I know you're showing my movie, and I just want to get better, and this means so much to me. And he still remembers that. You know, he's a genuine guy who remembers who he's about, which is why he's the real deal. And I wouldn't mind at all to see him win. But he may be too young, as Anne says. He's got a lot of opportunities, and it's a chance to give somebody that doesn't. Although Adrian Brody's already won, so I don't know.
I know we've referenced the AI issue. How much is it? Tempest in a teapot? Does it really matter?
It's
Does it
Tempest
blow
in a
back on
teapot. Every
anybody?
actor does ADR.
Yeah.
Every actor.
And
They
everyone in
do this.
Hollywood, the people who vote, are more sophisticated than a lot of the Twitter traffic out there. They understand that AI is already a very valuable part of filmmaking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Has been
please.
for years.
This
Yeah.
is not a factor, and if that's a factor, then that's going to affect its chances for production design because they used AI there as well. So
What is
You're
VFX?
killing them.
I know. It's just those two letters together just feel like, I know, but I agree with you. It's
You know, people go
overblown.
like this, but it's
I know.
people in Hollywood know the difference, I think.
they know the difference here. They know a performance.
To make the point of just like, young versus, a veteran, this is why many of us, I don't know if you guys predicted this, early in the season until SAG just told us differently. Everyone really thought Michael Keaton was going to beat Eddie Redmayne. And Birdman was winning Best Picture. There was no way you can convince me early in that season that Michael Keaton would not come along for that ride. So sometimes they don't care if you're a vet and you're like, sometimes they just really go with what is responding to.
Well, the thing with Michael Keaton and Eddie Redmayne is Eddie Redmayne started campaigning so effectively, so early, like he was running for mayor of Los Angeles. And he was out there, he was having dinner with everybody. He was so ingratiating.
It was
And
adorable.
Michael Keaton was
Yeah.
the opposite. And so, that's what happened there.
So given that, does that tip the scales one way or the other for Adrian versus Timmy? Who's the better campaigner?
Well,
I don't think in this case that applies.
do you know who the best campaigner has been? The two
Sebastian
best
Stan.
are actually
Sebastian Stan.
Sebastian and
Or
Coleman.
Miles.
Sebastian and Coleman.
Well, Coleman is a very sweet guy, and Sebastian's a great guy. And let's not forget with Sebastian Stan, he should win for The Apprentice, but he's also in A Different Man. He's great in that, and that's an Academy Award nominated movie as well for makeup. So
Let me also just say Coleman, only the second black actor to be nominated consecutively after Denzel Washington.
Is that right?
Dude is on a
Speaking
roll.
of
right
Denzel Washington, you have given me an opening to remind all of you how poorly Gladiator 2 did with the Oscar nomination. And I was right about that.
All right.
Paramount,
Okay?
Which is a
Paramount
perfect
have
segue.
imagined-
So high on it.
No. Could they have imagined a scenario where Gladiator gets the same number of nominations as Better Man?
Now coming up, we've got the Fab Five, and we're going to debate who's going to win Best Actress at the Oscars. I think Brady, did himself a lot of favors with the speech at the Golden Globes talking about his narrative. And I think about people who own their narrative, we've got Demi Moore for Best Actress. Suddenly we've got a narrative, she's telling a story, and suddenly we have a front runner for Best Actress. Something I don't think anyone on the screen would have predicted when this movie came out. So she's got some competition in the race. We've got Cynthia Erivo for Wicked, Carla Sofia Gascon for Amelia Perez, Mikey Madison for Nora, and Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here. Pete, why don't you kick us off with this one? Who's your front runner and who's your spoiler?
I think Demi is the front runner. I think, that was the perfect use of the Golden Globes, the perfect use. And she established it and she took it away. All she had to do was win that Globe to do that. And then she fulfilled it. And so I would be surprised if she doesn't carry this all the way through SAG and as well. So, Demi Moore. If I had to go with the second one, though, it would be Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here, your other Golden Globe winner, who I think gave such a powerful performance that I'm now beginning to believe many of these Academy members have actually seen. And the key is for somebody like that to be seen. And it's a very political movie. It's an interesting thing, but she just dominates. She's an incredible actress. And I saw her recently on Jimmy Kimmel, and she was great. Really good guest there and talking about everything. And so if she carries that up and campaigns and does her thing, I'd look out for her.
And what do you think?
I agree that Demi Moore delivered the speech of a lifetime and this is her first chance at an award of any kind. It's a narrative that the actors cannot resist. And the story she's telling in The Substance is a story that actors understand. And that's why she's going to win it handily. I really have no question about that. I think Fernanda Torres is the one with momentum. And she's got a narrative too. She's got her mother. And I think that I'm Still Here, the fact that Central Station was in the Oscars, that her mother was on, the stage at the Globes, all of that is really part of her narrative. They're both in the movie together. And that movie is going to be, as Pete says, seen by even more people between now and balloting time.
Clayton?
Demi Moore, however, again, today, let me say this. If Demi Moore sweeps, meaning she wins SAG and BAFTA, and CCA, then no matter what Torres does, I don't think she can do it. That would be hard to beat. Torres can win if this gets really messy this season, which has potential to do. I'm Still Here getting in picture, which I called for 2 weeks and then changed at the last minute. Moral of the story, don't change your predictions anymore after voting closes. But Fernanda, the precedent, the road for her is Marcia Gay Harden and Pollock. Literally, same studio, by the way, that ran that campaign did Pollock. Now, granted, she doesn't have SAG or BAFTA. This is what hurts her. We're not going to see her again until
I don't think
Oscar
she was eligible for BAFTA.
She was. Fernanda was eligible. She didn't make the long list, which is what makes it even wilder. Because I think people just get to international films late, and I think the Globes show that they matter, because that speech, her winning the Globe, really got people to watch that movie. And I think if it gets a little messy and we start jumping, because Cynthia has a really good shot of winning SAG. That Cynthia's probably, and could potentially win BAFTA. Mikey Madison could win CCA. So if it gets a little messy, then I think there's a road for Torres to upset. But I think it's between Torres, Moore, and Cynthia in the end.
Scott, what do you think?
I'm going to disagree. Now, let me first say I thought that I'm Still Here is terrific, and she's amazing, and it is a cool story 25 years after her mother and all of that. But I think some of you guys are spending too much time on film Twitter, because I get that somehow there's this army of Torres maniacs there, and God bless them. But I think that it's to me, it's a likelier scenario that if it's not Demi Moore, and I do think it will be, but if it's not, I think it would be Mikey Madison. And it's the ingenue Audrey Hepburn, new person on the scene who is the center of a movie that's also a Best Picture nominee. All of them are from Best Picture nominees in that category. But I think that there's the discovery, excitement of a discovery there. And I don't think half the people a lot of the people are still catching up to I'm Still Here. Maybe that'll, she'll win over some more people, but I just don't think that, again, the same way like film Twitter cannot understand how Amelia Perez could possibly have this many, it's.
So again, let me just add here. I think you have valid points, and yes, that's why I think we all recognize that on paper, Demi Moore is the front runner. But the Best Picture nomination for I'm Still Here is really what propelled. If it was just Fernanda isolated, then I would be like, there's no way. She's just happy to be there. The fact that the movie got in, I think, shows that I think probably more so the actors branch is what got the movie in. That they are the ones that really came through for that movie. And that's why I think the road for Fernanda is only if Demi Moore sweeping, because the narrative, because there's a lot of people who don't like The Substance, but are still voting for Demi Moore because the story's too great. Narratives work. So she's going to be hard to beat. But I think if everyone's getting a little bit of this, a little bit of that, I just think on that night, as people now are discovering, we call Maggie Madison a discovery. And I know Fernanda's 59 years old, but she's a discovery for everyone here in America who has never seen a Fernanda Torres performance. She is a discovery for a lot of those people. I think she poses a real threat. I'm not saying it's likely at the moment, but it's not impossible. And I'd say that we are due for Marcia Gay Harden. I mean, even Regina King and Christoph Waltz won without SAG, and Regina missed BAFTA as well, and so was able to win. Granted, all supporting performances, lead is different, but I'd say it's not out of the realm.
Just one last quick thing on that is, and sorry, Ann, I'll be really quick. I just want to say that keep in mind all this emphasis we're putting on the Golden Globes result there for Fernando Torres. 300 people who are journalists, no overlap with the Academy, and she did not. All 4 of the other people who are now Oscar nominated against Fernando Torres were in the other category. So I just don't want to overstate the significance of the Golden Globe win. It was great, and I'm happy she got recognized because she deserves it, but it doesn't necessarily, to me,
No, I think the lesson from the Globes is about narrative, and I think to me the message is about narrative, and I think probably the strongest takeaway
about a showcase.
I think what
the fact
did
she won was all that she needed to do.
Exactly, she won and she gave a great speech,
and then that goes viral and everything. But I was also going to add that I'm Still Here functions in another arena, which is that it's very scary for us during these turbulent political times. Enough said.
Right. Good point.
Yeah,
very good point.
And by the way, the international voting bloc, like the same group that got Anthony Hopkins over the line past Chadwick Boseman, I think are going to vote for her.
So I'm just saying, just for the sake of argument, though, Clayton, for that same reason, why are none of us talking about Carla Sofia Gaston?
I was just going to bring that up as the final point. I mean,
and that's the lead actress in the lead
lead actress in the movie making history.
Although a lot of people think the lead actress is Zoe Saldana too, but
they can vote for her in a different category.
Yeah.
So here we've got.
I mean, listen. I guess the Trump effect can be real, but
it is real. We saw it in the nominations.
It is real. We saw.
Congratulations, Sebastian Stan.
Yeah, and Sebastian Stan as well. But even now, listen, trans and LGBTQ issues were a big topic at the forefront of the election. And we've spoken to a lot of these Academy members, and there's always that small pocket that are monsters that would never vote for Carla. And, maybe she's in the realm of possibility, sure, maybe. But I think of the lineup, I think she's the least likely to win at the moment. But I think she'd be the least.
Yeah, I think her win is the nomination. I absolutely do. And I think the LGBTQ plus factor is going to continue as this administration, unfortunately, continues. And the hate comes out, and it will factor into movies. Maybe movies being sold, like one I just reviewed out of Sundance yesterday called Jim Paw, with John Lithgow giving the performance of the last 40 years of his career, I think, as a gay grandfather here with a trans binary granddaughter, and Olivia Colman being in the middle of that family story about a queer family and growing up that way. He's great, and that'll be a factor. And and I think this will continue. But this year, I think the statement is the nomination, and I don't think, and for the movie itself, but I don't think she will.
Yeah.
Deb, I'm just going to wrap us there. Thank you, everyone.
I was like, Deb, let me just give you this fact to close on. First time since 1977, all the actress nominees are from Best Picture nominees.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. Hi, I've gathered the Fab Five, and we're going to debate who's going to win Best Director at the upcoming Oscars. So let us talk about Best Director, which I think will bring us a good debate. I know that there's a front runner, and we have it in Brady Corbet, but there are a few other contenders with Sean Baker, Jacques Audiard, Coralie Farge, the lone female nominee, and James Mangold. And Thompson, give us your front runner and your potential spoiler.
I do think Brady Corbet is going to win this one. God forbid I cite the Hollywood Reporters Roundtable, but it was very obvious to me in that situation with all the directors around there that he was the one who they respected and understood had done an extraordinary job. And he just spoke with such authority, such knowledge of how to shoot a movie. And he understood what all the other directors had to deal with. And he did something remarkable over 10 years with very little support And he and Mona Fastvold, his life partner and writing partner, really delivered something extraordinary. So I
And
think
he's
that's the first.
36.
And he used to be an actor, so he had a head start as a child actor. But I actually think that is the front runner. And if there is momentum right now, Jacques Audiard, you would say, is overdue. He's extraordinary. He's one of the great directors of our time. He's been nominated before in international. Everybody knows who he is. The issue here would be, would Mangold catch up? That could be. There is a lot of love for A Complete Unknown, but we have to remember the foreign vote here. And I do think A Complete Unknown is more of an American picture.
Scott Feinberg, what do you think?
I agree with almost everything Ann said there. I think that, smart money right now is on Courbet, and we have seen, although the last couple of years with Oppenheimer and Everything Everywhere, picture directors stayed together, but in the era of the preferential ballot, it's been not infrequent that you have a split there where picture is sort of, the one people like the most or what most widely, and director is the one where you say, that guy, how did he do it? Or that woman, how did they do it? And who had the toughest job. And I think, it's hard. It's not that directing a musical in a language other than your own is easy, but I think that when people, process the ambition and scope of The Brutalist, and just like, this is a guy out of like the mold of Orson Welles or something. He's so young, he's so ambitious, did this with $10 million. People literally gasp when they hear at Q&As and things, only $10 million, VistaVision, intermission, crazy stuff. So, right now, this week, everybody's kind of fixating on this AI thing. I don't think that's necessarily going to change too much, but I think there is a lot of admiration for this guy and seeing where he'll go. And it's across the board. It's not just fellow directors. There are just organically, it's come up other actors who I didn't even remember had worked with him. Jude Law, can't say enough about this guy. He has nothing to do with this movie. Like I can't even remember. There were 2 or 3 other recent interviews where they're like, by the way, Sebastian Stan, another guy. So it's just like, obviously these are only a few examples. We got 10,000 voters, but it's kind of notable that, in a field of first time directing nominees, I don't think there's anybody who feels particularly overdue or whatever. And so it's going to be maybe more about just respect.
Pete Hammond, what do you think?
Well, as I wrote in my analysis piece, which I know you all read with bated breath.
We did. Would you like me to recite it?
I want to point out a historical Oscar year of 2002 when The Pianist, starring Adrian Brody as a Holocaust survivor, won screenplay, director for Roman Polanski, and actor, and lost to a big musical adaptation. That's what I think could happen this year. I think you could have a weird repeat where Brady Corbet, and I do agree he's the front runner in this for many reasons, and also the fact that he's won the key director awards, starting at Venice and then at Golden Globes and what have you. But I think this could happen again, just like this. And the preferential ballot's going to, determine that in the end, it may not be picture, and but it may be these other things that they give it. So we'll see. And if it's not him, Jacques Audiard, I would have to say, would be the likely winner.
Clayton, go ahead.
Listen, yes, on paper, right now, today, Brady. It's hard to argue today. I've been having a hard time kind of wrapping my head around him. In the sense of, I love going through historical precedent. I love that Pete brought up 2002. I brought that up earlier in the season, and that was like kind of my play book of how Wicked would win in that way. But in Brady specifically being the split of a picture director thing, in the preferential ballot era, because it's hard to go further back because we're at different times. It's hard to find a director that I need to know what else Brutalist is winning on that night that kind of justifies him just winning director. Now, I know Jane Campion won by herself, but she's Jane Campion. Brady Corbet is not like a guy. When I say a guy, like in quotes, like there are Guillermo del Toro, when he was sweeping that season, and it wasn't a given that Shape of Water was winning Best Picture yet, but everyone like loves Guillermo. Like he had like a long history. Brady Corbet is fairly new to these 10,000 people. So if it's not him, it's then you start asking like, who is it? Is it Jacques? You know, he's like the French Martin Scorsese. Could they do it for him and then match up with Emilia? Sure. Sean Baker, when I talk about a Nora winning Best Picture, the pathway I think it needs Sean to win Best Picture. And I think it needs Sean in director, because then I start thinking of John G. Avildsen for Rocky. Like could it be just like a random night where it's like picture, director, you know, screenplay, picture, director, editing, or whatever? Like
that was a real sweep, Rocky.
It
had coattails.
Well, no, because Cabaret like killed that night, like pretty much, and then Rocky just went
that's
picture,
a
director, and
Cabaret was 72.
Wait, no, it's not Cabaret. What am I thinking of? 76.
I feel like Rocky really did.
Network won
actor,
screenplay, and all the acting almost. And Rocky came in with editing, director, and picture.
Yeah, it only won 3. Well, I just think like now looking at by the way, actually Cabaret, interesting. That's a split with the Godfather, because that also won actor and picture. I just think
Cabaret was director and actress, which so you could have Sean and Mikey as your theory.
Yeah, I need and this is how I always felt, and I think you guys feel the same. When you're making predictions, your predictions have to tell me a story. What happened on the night? So yes, we can predict it isolated and say, yeah, Brady's winning, but we know more than anyone that a lot of these Academy members do vote down the line. And not a majority of them, but there are a lot that do, and that tends to make a difference. So they have to actively, like, we like to think they're active thinkers of being like, yes, I'm voting for Brady Corbet because I think it's the best directed movie of the year. But it may just be difficult for them if they're to go just Brady, if they're not doing it in production or score or Adrian. You know, I think
it is going to win a bunch of below the line. It is. I mean, you've got a bunch of the production design and things like that. It could very well happen. I understand
right. That's one that I think it wins.
Sure. Library
also.
I mean, I think.
By the way, I would say on Anora that Sean Baker is likely to win screenplay and editing. That's the thing I think he could win.
I agree. The frenetic pace of that movie makes people think of
editing. In the editing room. Yeah.
And I do want to like tell everyone to warn everyone from stepping into the trap of doing the thing where they like bend themselves, not us, people that predict also, but bend themselves to make sure everyone gets one on the night. We did this in 2014 with Iñárritu, Wes Anderson, and Richard Linklater, and they just gave all 3 to Iñárritu and let the other 2 just go home empty-handed. So sometimes they just go for it, whatever the movie is.
All right, so I have a question to ask. So does the DGA winner automatically win the Oscar?
Mostly. This is interesting you bring this up, because we have yet to have any of these guild contests decided. Right. A lot of this is based on momentum. So we can sit here and talk about Brady Corbet and everything else, and when suddenly somebody else starts winning everything and it isn't him, that is going to affect this vote. And that's 100%. What always happens. And with the DGA, it's, they've been wrong, 8 times, whatever it is. And, also Complete Unknown could gain some momentum for Timothée Chalamet if he starts winning at Critics' Choice and then wins at SAG, and
which is likely.
Like that. So,
you think Chalamet wins SAG? You do?
That'll come in Best Actor. We're
not going to Best Actor yet. Good
but wait, but I do want to say something to Pete, and this gives more credence to what Pete brings up. In 2002, this is a James Mangold pitch. 2002, when Roman Polanski won, that is the last time a director won the Oscar without being nominated for a Golden Globe.
But the Golden Globes have changed. Like, I get what you're saying, but it's a whole different.
I'm just saying, like, there's
you heard that.
There's a road for Mangold.
There's been a little bit of coverage about that.
There's a road for Mangold, and I think looking to that year, Mangold is well known. He's liked everywhere, and if that movie starts picking stuff up, like.
We've got some awards for us to get through. All right, we'll leave it there. Hi, now that we know who the Oscar nominees are, I gathered some of my friends together so we can talk about who's going to win Best Picture. Hi, I'm Debra Birnbaum with Gold Derby, and I've gathered once again the Fabulous Five to talk about the Oscar nominations, which were just announced. Lots of surprises, but lots to talk about here as well. So I'm going to read off the nominations. We've got Anora, The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Amelia Perez, I'm Still Here, Nickel Boys, The Substance, and Wicked. Clayton, let's start with you. Who's your front runner and who's your spoiler?
God, why'd you start with me? Listen, today, following nominations, you have to say Amelia Perez. You like, it's 13 nominations on paper. It really flex. So I think Amelia is the front runner. But honestly, I think any 6 movies can win Best Picture. 6 of those 10 can win. They have like their own individual pathway. Some are a little more narrow than others, but I do think Anora, The Brutalist, Conclave, Wicked, A Complete Unknown, Amelia Perez. You could tell me they won at the end, and I believe you.
All right, Scott, over to you. Front runner and spoiler.
Yeah, I think that it is hard to justify saying anything other than Amelia Perez right now. It doesn't mean that it's a pick we can all be very confident in, but when you've got 13 nominations, literally only 3 movies have ever had more than that, and that was just one more, and 2 of those won. And it's just a formidable figure, especially in the era of the preferential ballot. It says that people across the board are really on board for this movie. That being said, I agree about that there are those 5 other possibilities. I at the moment think that The Brutalist might be the alternative, only partly working backwards. A lot of people are hesitant. It certainly happens, but hesitant to split picture and director. And if you look at director, the only other person there who I can really see winning is Brady Corbet. So other than, Jacques Audiard for Amelia Perez. So it's still early, but that's where I am at the moment.
Anne, what do you think?
I keep changing my mind. Before the nominations, it was definitely The Brutalist for the same reason. Brutalist, I think Corbet wins director. There's no, and Adrian Brody. We'll see. We'll get there. But there's a lot of support for The Brutalist, but it's still an art film. It's still something very special and long, and it's accessible, but it's also alienating for some people. It's serious. It has gravitas. It has that look and feel of a big Oscar movie. It has the $10 million narrative of how it got made, which is very compelling, I think, for the Academy. And yet, Amelia Perez is at 13. And why do I feel resistance to Amelia Perez? I don't know. It's very.
A lot of people do.
Netflix is still disliked. There is huge antipathy. You will notice that in the documentary category, no Netflix shortlisted films were chosen. 3 of them. And they were, shunned, if you like. So I don't know how to say this. I'll have to go with Brutalist and Amelia Perez.
Pete?
Okay, well, I just like you've said here, I think it's kind of undeniable when you have 13 nominations, although 2 of them are for songs and 1 of them is for international film. So as one pundit for another movie, Wicked, called me immediately and said, I think we're on an even keel. We weren't eligible in international and we don't have original songs. And so it's the same thing. And then I pointed out, but you don't have directing and you don't have writing. And the last time a movie won like that was Grand Hotel. And, so what are you going to do? But we have had 2 instances recently where the director wasn't nominated and the movie won. Green Book and Coda. So listen, anything's possible with this preferential ballot in the Best Picture race. So I don't think it's a slam dunk. Normally you might say that. I can't say that. I think the movie that might benefit most second is Conclave. And in terms of likability, across the board that I talk to people. That's one. The Brutalist, I talked to someone last night. They said, my wife and I just spent 3 days watching that movie. So,
Probably not the director's
It's
intention.
not the mainstream pick, and Conclave is the mainstream pick.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but when I looked at the nominations, I felt Wicked picked up momentum because
Sure.
it was 3 more noms than the BAFTAs, which is significant. And I understand the director writer thing, but it is a rare thing. But that movie has real popularity and joy behind it. Conclave, on the other hand, I felt like it lost steam. It didn't get everything you might have expected. And
the director it didn't get, which was
exactly, precisely. Edward Berger didn't get in. And so the issue there is that it's light. It's not serious enough, Conclave. It'll win screenplay. That's it.
What about A Complete Unknown? Is that a potential spoiler?
I think that's right.
It has
right
momentum.
It's extremely well liked.
When you talk about preferential ballot, it feels like the Academy loves this movie.
It's very well liked, and it's got a shot coming in late, and all of that. It definitely has a shot. It got all the key nominations you could get, including Mangold's first as director, which I thought was really significant. So yeah, that's why I say this preferential ballot will really play into it this year. It's really going to play into it. And what Anne mentioned about Netflix, it's what we say every year about Netflix. There is the resistance, and it's still there. It's because people don't want to make a statement that Netflix, they made it with Apple, but nobody paid much attention to that. But Netflix will be a statement if that can win Best Picture. And this is the movie, in my opinion, they've got the best shot they've ever had.
This definitely feels like their strongest contender for sure.
I want to add to this also, and I think this is why it's also hard for us to talk about it really hardcore today, is because we don't have the guilds yet. And why it makes it so wide open is that the major ones, PGA, DGA, SAG, there's a very good chance we're like 2015 and it goes to all different movies. And then we're all going to sit there on Oscar night and we're all going to flip a coin, a 6-sided coin, and be like, who won? And we're not going to know.
Wicked will win SAG, don't you think?
Well, I think Wicked wins SAG. I think Brutalist wins DGA.
Yeah.
And I think PGA maybe either Honora or Amelia Perez. So for me, a lot like Brutalist winning PGA would be, for me, a done deal. It's Brutalist, we're done. Because that would prove to me it could win on a preferential ballot.
And they're both the same night.
And they're both the same night, yeah. We all got to divide and conquer. But I think that for us, that's going to be the real tell. Because, even WGA, which you have to take with a grain of salt because there's so many ineligibilities.
There's so many films that aren't even there.
But
WGA, I just voted in it yesterday. I'm in WGA, and there's like about 3 movies that are nominated for Oscars.
And then what? Guess what? Conclave's going to probably win BAFTA. So it's just
and Conclave will win BAFTA. So and I think that's the big point here. We're going to be sitting here, and like if Amelia doesn't win any of the guilds, are we really going to predict it on the night with just Golden Globe? Which, by the way, is what happened to Moonlight. Moonlight won with just Golden Globe and WGA in original screenplay, which got flipped to adapted at the Oscar. So that's why this is making it really hard this year.
I will just say with Complete Unknown, if you work it backwards, and we'll have to see again, it would help a lot if it wins some guild recognition or something along the way. But you could see a scenario where Timothy wins lead actor, maybe even Edward Norton wins supporting. Like there are things where it could kind of fall into place where it looks like a more traditional Best Picture haul, as opposed to like, Amelia Perez, what else is it going to win?
It's not good editing though. A Complete Unknown.
Yeah,
sure. And I think I put less stock in those things that we used to look at more, and it would one category 3, like as we were saying with director, these rules, there's no causal reason that should affect picture. But my thing with Complete Unknown is that, or as opposed to some of these others, like let's just play it out quickly. Brutalist. All right, so Brutalist, you could see theoretically picture, director, actor, supporting actor, best case scenario. Amelia Perez, I get right now picture and supporting actress, and I don't know. We'll see.
It gets international.
Well, it's going to win.
Unless I'm still here, gets international.
Yeah,
sure.
And it gets supporting actress, Amelia Perez.
Supporting actress, yeah. Anyway,
although I'm still there with
I'm
its
still
Best
here.
Picture
It's
nomination.
now giving it a run for its money.
It's
Yes.
giving
I
it a
don't
run
think, don't
for
count
its
out the
money.
Brazilians.
Yeah.
And by
Very
the way,
vocal.
there's been years where a film, I think it was maybe the year of Amelie, where the film that was, I believe, nominated in the major categories lost in the foreign language category. So it's not just automatic. Oh, if it's a Best Picture nominee, it wins, or if it's the more nominated this year, because it's the first time we have two out of the international feature category, two Best Picture nominees. Point is, sometimes people do split the all right, we'll give this one international and that one gets something else.
That happened to Pan's Labyrinth.
That's right,
lost.
that year too.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They clearly like I'm Still There, and
I'm Still Here.
to get a Best Picture nomination. So I don't know. That would have been a slam dunk to me, international, for Amelia, but I wouldn't bet the farm on it.
So moral of the story is we don't know.
The moral of the story is we don't know, and I think I'm going to wrap it here and just say the preferential ballot has never mattered more. And now coming up, we've got the Fab Five back together again, and we're going to debate who's going to win Best Supporting Actor and Best Supporting Actress at the upcoming Oscars. We have Yura Borisov for Anora, Kieran Culkin for A Real Pain, Edward Norton for A Complete Unknown, Guy Pearce for The Brutalist, and Jeremy Strong for the aforementioned The Apprentice. And Thompson, front runner. Who's your front runner and who's your spoiler?
There's not going to be much argument today. I think Kieran Culkin for A Real Pain is the front runner. He's going to sweep all these different things. It's just the way it is. It's one of those aforementioned. It must happen, not going to be denied, and here's a Jeremy Strong and Kieran Culkin reunited, but it's just going to happen, and the fact that it got denied Best Picture also, this is it, this is the one.
They got to have Nick Britell waiting to play the score if Jeremy Strong somehow comes in here and.
Oh yes. I don't think we're going to argue this. No. Are we going to argue this?
I actually am. Hold on.
All right.
Okay.
Ain't that easy.
Clayton Davis, take it away.
No, we're not. No. Listen, I think A Real Pain missing Best Picture was a bigger deal than I think people make, and bigger deal in terms of Kieran winning chances. In this category, they're all first-time nominees except for four-time nominee Edward Norton, who has never won an Oscar. And if Timmy's winning on the night, I think we have a Mystic River situation, Dallas Buyers Club situation. I think they may be a package deal. I think Norton's going to make the turn somewhere. And I think what's going to hurt Kieran most of all, Kieran's not here during phase 2 to campaign. He is currently in rehearsals for Glenn Ross. So we will not see him until SAG night, which is after Oscar voting closes. So I think that we see these time to time where it looks preordained.
Stallone.
Stallone was like a perfect example. It missed SAG. But like I'm even looking at someone like oh my God, like Alan Arkin also. Like, it was Eddie Murphy until it just wasn't anymore, like on Oscar night. So I just think that there is much more opening for something here, and I think it's Edward Norton. But I also would just say international vote counting here. I don't think we should count out Yura Borisov. He's the only one, aside from the other two, that has made it in everywhere at every award show. Has a good shot at BAFTA. We should.
Are you saying that Yura Borisov is the next Lila Kadrova?
Exactly. Got the reference.
I'm not going to explain that. Look it up.
He's the one who's very happy to be nominated, and I love the guy, of course. Yeah. But honestly, I love the way you spin out these scenarios, Clayton.
I think Norton. How could you not think that Norton would be viable?
That only happens if A Complete Unknown, for whatever reason, takes off in some big way.
And you're right on that.
And becomes momentum and mangled, and everybody. It's a sweep situation. That's the only way that would happen.
Yeah, that's going to be tough for that to happen, but
and the fact that Monica Barbaro got in there is a big deal. That's a good thing.
Yeah. I think it's Kieran here. I just see it. I just see him. It's just one of those years where
You know why
the
you see
same
it,
guy
Pete?
wins. Remember, in the year of Three Billboards, it was all going to be Willem Dafoe's year for Florida Project until they started giving out awards. And
I'll tell
look,
you the other reason why it's going to be Kieran Culkin, I think, is look at last year in that same category with Downey. Every time the guy gave a speech, people ate it up. He was the same self-deprecating, crazy stuff. It's almost as if Kieran Culkin is, trying to replicate the Downey. You
That's
get
a
up
good
there and you're
comparison.
just,
Really good point.
Entertaining as hell.
yeah.
yeah, and the
And
movie
they
is
want that
good.
speech.
A Real Pain is really good, and it's a really well written.
It is,
And
but
it
it
did
only
get a
has,
screenplay nom as well.
but we
Yeah.
also have to remember it's now open to 10,000 members, especially in the artisan branches. That Real Pain is not nominated in any of them, and they're going to be watching The Brutalist. They're going to be watching Complete Unknown because it's nominated within their respective branches.
It's
not
not a
bad-
terrible point to
No,
make.
it's the Glenn
but-
Close argument. Why did she lose? Her movie was not nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, Glenn Close, yeah. I mean, it was called The Wife, and the Academy is
I mean,
mostly
One of
men.
those
but it also-
nobody wanted to see, and no one did.
They didn't watch
but
it, and they did watch The Favorite,
They
which
also-
lost everything except Olivia Colman, but that was enough for her to win.
It happened to Alan Arkin, though. Alan Arkin's film was nominated for Best Picture. Eddie Murphy's movie wasn't.
He was also a veteran who had several Oscar nominations.
Right.
James Coburn was a veteran who had never been nominated. The supporting actor sometimes goes for that. That's your theory here on Edward Norton, so we'll see.
But is
All
Edward
right.
Norton beloved? I don't
No,
think so.
he's not.
All right. So speaking of veterans, let's talk about the supporting actress category, where we've got a veteran up against some new people. So in Best Supporting Actress, our veteran is Isabella Rossellini for Conclave, up against Monica Barbaro for Complete Unknown, Ariana Grande for Wicked, Felicity Jones for The Brutalist, and Zoe Saldana for Amelia Perez. Clayton,
Yeah.
who's your front runner?
Indisputable at the moment. It's Zoe out in front after the Globe win. Ariana Grande is behind her. We also could wind up with the situation I described in some other categories where it gets split, divided throughout the season. Maybe Ari wins SAG and CCA. Zoe wins BAFTA and Globe, and then we look at the night and see what happens. I think 13 nominations, though. Zoe, I will say this. This category is really presenting the opportunity for both their movies to win Best Picture. They both need it. Wicked needs more than anything because Wicked needs an above-the-line win. And the 1932 set of a movie winning without director and screenplay, the last movie to win without winning either acting, directing, or screenplay was 1940 with Rebecca. Rebecca won with just cinematography. So without directing, acting, or screenplay, and Wicked doesn't have two of those, it needs Ari or Cynthia, and Ari seems like the easier, quote-unquote, get. If Isabella Rossellini was nominated for SAG, I would consider her a dark horse. But she's not. And she could win BAFTA just because they do weird things at BAFTA. We saw Barry Keoghan win BAFTA over Key, and that's possible. I think it's really just down to Zoe and Ari.
Scott, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think if it's not Zoe, that's one of the crazier upsets of recent history. But if it was not Zoe, I do think probably Ariana. We talked about pre-nominations when we did this before that Isabella Rossellini would be kind of poetic because her mother also won for a nothing part in Murder on the Orient Express, but I don't think anyone other than us are even aware of that. And so I'm not putting too much stock in that. Barbaro's kind of cool to see in there, but I don't see that or Felicity really happening. So, it also helps to be historically to be the largest of the supporting parts, among the largest, which I think also reinforces the idea that it's Zoe or Ariana. And I think there's a lot more reason to believe it would be Zoe. Ariana's great, but this is kind of her film coming out. And Zoe, meanwhile, has been a huge figure for a quarter century. So,
Pete, make your case.
Okay, Zoe Saldana has this in the bag. and you're going to see this roll along, and she's going to win everything here. It's the lead role, and it's overwhelming. It's very difficult for somebody like Isabella Rossellini, who I love and would love to see, be a true supporting winner, because she does what this category was designed for here. And it's a very small role, and some have won in the past, but it won't be this year, unfortunately, for her. Felicity Jones, I don't see at all. Monica Barbaro was great as Joan Baez, but I don't see her winning here on her first nomination. Ariana Grande, they can have the attitude. Why don't we wait for Wicked for Good, part 2 next year? That might be the attitude on Wicked down the line, is if they don't want to vote for it, we have another opportunity with these actors, and that includes Cynthia Erivo. So that puts her out, and that leaves Zoe Saldana, who has been in all these big blockbuster movies, been blue, been green, whatever color,
Worked
is
with
required.
everyone.
Works with everyone.
Yes,
Good point.
and she's great with her speeches. She is so excited by this. She even told me at Palm Springs, I went over and talked to her. She said, "Tell me, is this like it always is at the Oscars?" And I said, "Well, I think this has gone back to be a normal year for the Oscars. That was just about a week before the LA fires. And now it's not a normal year," but she was so excited. She just said, "I just want it to be like it was, because it's my first time." She's got the enthusiasm. She's out there. Her people behind her are really enthusiastic about this, and so they're making sure she wins this, and she will.
Quick fun fact: I asked her if before this announcement, which I don't really understand from this past week, that they're gonna get rid of the live performances of the songs. I mean, that's one of the few things that people who
I don't get that either.
Right? Like people
They
who
must
haven't
be
seen
having
movies,
trouble lining people up.
Well, they announced it before the nominations, which I think they did in anticipation of the fact that they were not likely to get the
Elton John isn't going to perform for them.
No, and what are they going to get? Selena Gomez, who did not get nominated.
Exactly.
This is exactly where I was going, because I asked both of the Amelia Perez people, if your song's nominated, would you be willing to perform? Selena was a no. She doesn't do music anymore. And Zoe was a yes. So now we'll see if they, you said, the enthusiasm.
Yeah, and just a little bit of fairness here, like the song stuff had been brewing before the fires, because listen, if they're obsessed with 3-hour runtime of an Oscar ceremony, you get 25 minutes back in that regard.
And there was no Wicked original song anyway, and that's what they really want.
Having the songs, they would be doing them.
But so they're getting a Wicked performance one way or another. They'll figure it out.
By the way,
they nominate Elton John because he's Elton John. It's a Disney Plus show, for God's sake.
In fairness,
I want Anne to be able to talk about her.
I was going to.
Go ahead,
Clayton, go ahead.
I was going to say El Mal does not sound good live. That is not a song to be sang live. Go ahead, Anne.
Okay, so I'm going to confirm what you all already know, Zoe Saldana. But the other thing, as you were suggesting, is she sings, she dances, she shows this huge range of what she can do with no makeup on. And I think that is the narrative there. She's 46 years old. She's paid her dues. She's done everything anyone could want.
She's international,
franchises of all time, and now she can win.
And she's in the most nominated movie. So there's all kinds of reasons why this is inevitable.
It would be weird for a movie with 13. It would be weird for the Best Picture winner, not obviously unheard of, but sort of unusual to not have at least one acting win. And you saw it last year. Oppenheimer had 13 nominations, won, and brought along Killian.
Curious case of Benjamin Button. Just giving, like, there are examples of it. It's not unprecedented. I'm keeping, but also in fair, just to give some great historical context, Zoe Saldana winning should be the third Latina ever to win an acting Oscar, and the first to not be from West Side Story.
All right, before we wrap, I want to make sure, I know there are many other categories that we did not cover. I'll do a quick round robin. Is there a category you're particularly passionate about and or that you want to make a call for?
Yeah,
Pete
I'll
Hammond.
start right now. Best Animated Feature and Best International Feature. It's nominated in both. It's a great movie called Flow. Check it out. You will not be sorry. This is a unique and unusual movie. It's been winning every critics award. It won at the Golden Globes, and it's in an incredible category this year.
So you're
The
saying you
best-
think it's going to win both?
Huh?
You're saying you think it's
No,
going
I'm
to?
just saying it's nominated in both. Check out that movie. You're saying a category you're passionate for. I just think these movies in Best Animated Feature are so good. The Wild Robot is a great movie. So is Wallace and Gromit. So is Memoir of a Snail. And so, quite frankly, is Inside Out 2. This is the best year for animated feature I've ever seen.
All right, Scott.
Documentary feature is interesting for the second year in a row. It's almost entirely international, non-American, non-English language, except for half of Sugarcane. I think that there's an assumption that it will be No Other Land because it's commenting on the situation in the Middle East. I would just say, don't sleep on Porcelain War. It deals with the other huge conflict of our time, Russia, Ukraine, and it's actually pretty feel good as opposed to some of the others. And so and it's about filmmaking and artistry and all kinds of things. So never before has a movie won an Oscar, as far as I know, where the two co-directors didn't even meet until their premiere, which is the case here with the Ukrainian filmmaker and the American filmmaker. I just am saying, if people actually watch the movies, it's got a shot.
Sorry. Oh, Feinberg, by the way, I think it's the only one of the 5 that's nominated at all the guilds.
Which is pretty
Porcelain War.
Porcelain War, it's been handled by Bob and Jeannie Burney brilliantly.
Great job. All right,
so
and
I was going for the documentary category also, but I was going to advocate for just to see it. I don't know if it's going to win. I imagine it could, and that would be Soundtrack for a Coup d'etat, which is this extraordinary thing. You can't even imagine that it would exist. It's got these great jazz performances from the 60s. It explores the Congo and the fight over it back in the 60s. It has this reveal of how corrupt the United Nations was at the time. I always had a sort of idealized view of the UN, which has been shattered. So I highly recommend that film.
All right, and Clayton, we'll leave you
going
with the
to
last
the
word.
core of what Debra was initially asking about, like the category. I'd like to ask everyone what the hell is winning Best Film Editing, because that's the one
I'm with Ann.
that keeps me up.
Yeah, I think
Anora.
right.
Absolutely. I feel so confident that Baker is taking original screenplay and editing. And very rare, because James Cameron and Alfonso Cuarón for Gravity and Titanic, respectively, are the only ones who've ever been granted that win. Directors in editing.
But so directors win with someone else. A solo director editor has never won. Chloe
has
Zhao
never won editing. No.
Wait, what?
James Cameron won with 2 other people, I think, for editing.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that a director editor has won editing when they're with a co-editor. They've never won solo.
Was Soderbergh ever nominated under his pseudonym?
But the Coens were.
When Traffic won editing, that was
What's his name? Peter something.
Steven Medione.
Yeah.
What about the Coens
Peter
for under their?
They lost. They lost editing.
I don't think anybody. Remember, the names of the people. The names of the editors are not even on the ballot. It's the film. And when you think about Anora, you're thinking about the fast-paced craziness of it. And meanwhile, the Brutalists, there are going to be every year you hear the people that there's not enough
Everybody
editing, not
criticizes
enough
that
editing.
one.
You know,
It's hard to edit a 3.5-hour film.
Yeah,
So, yes.
It's long. The second half isn't as good as the first half. Blah blah blah.
My current pick right now is Conclave, because I think it's going to duplicate. It feels like when Witness won editing and screenplay.
takes you back.
It feels like that.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for the lively debate, as always. I appreciate it. And we'll get the gang back together again, post all these precursor wins, so we can debate it one more time. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for listening to Awards Magnet. The show is produced by Aaron Greenwald. Our logo is designed by Chelsea Sikora. To be part of the show, email us at slugfests@goldderby.com and follow us on social media @goldderby.